Hello class, this is Professor Choi. Today we're going to be covering how to calculate the mean and standard deviation of group data using a frequency table. In one of my previous videos we talked about how to basically create a frequency table. One of the things that happens when you have a frequency table is that now you have organized data. And using that particular organized data, you can also try and calculate a mean and calculate a standard deviation. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Okay? Now, this is the formula to calculate the mean of group data. This is a formula to calculate the standard deviation of group data. And down here, I also have the formula for midpoint. And over here, I have the definitions of each one of those letters in case you can't follow me. Okay? So this right here means summation of frequency times midpoint divided by n. This right here is standard deviation, which is square root of summation of frequency times midpoint minus the mean square divided by n minus 1. Alright? So let's take a look at an example. Imagine that I took students from my class and I basically asked them how old are they. And then I organize that information that I got and I put it on my frequency table that you see here. So I collected the information. The students between the age of 10 and 10, I had 8 students. Between the age of 20 and 30, I had 14 students. And between the age of 30 and 40, I had 2 students. So my frequency represents how many students I have on that particular age range. Okay? It's the count, basically. Alright. So first thing we need to do is we got to calculate the midpoint, because as you can see we need to use it for both of these. So let's calculate the midpoint. Alright, now the midpoint is basically the high value plus the low value divided by 2. So I'm just going to take the high value on my class, add the low value, and then divide it by 2. So 20 plus 10 divided by 2, that's going to give me 15. 30 plus 20 divided by 2, that's going to give me 25. And then 40 plus 30 divided by 2, that's going to give me 35. So those are my midpoints. Alright, now to calculate my x bar, which is my mean, I got to do summation frequency times midpoint divided by n. So let's start with the frequency times midpoint. So frequency times midpoint. So what I'm literally going to do right now is I'm going to multiply frequency times midpoint and I'm going to write it there. So 8 times 15, that's 120. 14 times 25, that's 350. And 2 times 35, that's 70. Alright, so what we did right now is frequency times midpoint. The next thing we need to do on the mean formula is we got to do summation. So I got to add those. So summation is just adding all of those. So I got to do 120 plus 350 plus 70. That gives me 540. Alright, so I did the portion of the formula. And then the next step is to divide by n. N, remember, is the total amount of people, or the sample size. In this case, the frequency represents the amount of people. So the n for this group is 8 plus 14 plus 2. And that is 24. So in order to calculate my x bar, I now have to do this top of the formula divided by 24. So it's 540 divided by 24. Okay, so 540 divided by 24. And that is 22.5. And that is going to be the mean of my frequency distribution table. Alright, so that's going to be our x bar, our mean of a frequency distribution table. Alright, now let's move on to how to calculate the standard deviation. Okay, so the standard deviation is square root summation frequency midpoint minus x bar squared divided by n minus 1. So let's take that again, as I mentioned before, and let's take we'll kind of work our way out of the formula. Alright? So we're going to do this portion, then after that we're going to do square, then we're going to multiply times the frequency, then we're going to add. And then once we got the top, we're going to divide by the bottom. Alright, so let's do m minus x bar. Okay, now m is the midpoint of each one of these, and I got to do each one of those and then subtract x bar, which is this right here. So for the first number, I got to do 15 minus 22.5. And that is negative 7.5. For the next one, I got to do 25 minus 22.5. That's going to be 2.5. For the next one, I got to do 35 minus 22.5. And that's going to give me 12.5. Okay? So now we have this portion of the formula done. Next step on the formula says we got to square. So I'm going to take these numbers and I'm going to square them. So this is my m minus x bar squared. Okay, 2.5 squared, 12.5 squared. Alright, so now we got this portion of the formula already done. Next step on the formula is I got to multiply times the frequency. So I got to do m minus x bar square times the frequency. That's what we are right now. So I'm going to take this number here and I'm going to multiply it times the frequency that has to do with the first data point. So I'm going to do 56.25 times 8. That gives me 450. Now I got to do 6.25 times 14. Now I got to do 156.25 times 2. Okay, so far? Alright, now, next thing I got to do, now I have this portion here. I did m minus x bar, I squared it, I multiplied it times its frequency. Okay? Now I got to do summation. So summation of that is just adding those numbers. Alright, so now I got this portion here completed. I got to do divide by n minus 1. So I got to do now n is 24, minus 1 will be 23. So I got to do here 850 divided by 23, and then I got to find the square root of that. So let's do 850 divided by 23. Okay, that's going to give me square root of 36.96 divided by 23. Actually, you know what? Let's carry a couple more decimal points here. Okay. So we're going to carry a few more decimal points there. So make sure that we can get the right answer down here. Alright, so now we got to do no, sorry. What I got here is already the answer. Yes. So this is 36.9565. There you go. Okay, now I got to find the square root of that. So square root of 36.9565. And I got here my standard deviation is 6.0792. So if you gotta round that, then you'll round it to 6.08. Hey, I hope you had some fun today with me calculating the mean, standard deviation, and midpoint of a frequency table and or group data. Thank you for tuning in to another lesson with Professor Choi. Have a good one.